them have something to do with agriculture. Maybe a little higher just given the topic, but just on average in the US, it's between 1% and 2% of people have something to do with agriculture. So I want to ask some kind of basic questions. So I have read that in developed countries, we're seeing that diminished yield or flattened yield in terms of we've had decades and decades of growth in the US and in other big ag exporter countries. But that we've also seen that diminished yield in smallholder farmers or developing countries. Can you just in a very non-techie way describe what are the challenges that are driving that diminishment of yield?
So we need to understand in a very simple language. We need to understand that the scenario it's very complex and it's becoming more complex every year. So we have more products available, new disease happening, at the same time we have new, genetics, new biological products, chemical products, and everything. So the scenario it's very, very complex, and it's becoming more complex every year. And because of that, the farmers and agronomists they are making mistakes in the decision making. Those mistakes are generating, damages, so metabolic, physiological damages, and those damages are generating losses. So we are now in a flat moment. In some cases, we need to understand that we did a lot in biotechnology and other, evolutions, but now it's a moment that we need to use this new technology, there is information technology to understand when, how much we need to use all the available resources. And so the point is understanding what you need to do. You be able to avoid those mistakes, and avoiding those mistakes, you will reduce, the damages and the losses. And this is directly how we are increasing the yield and how we'll be able to increase the yield. Doing all the things at the right time and at the right quantity and at the right decision.
Children and independent cancel Yara and Klein skills.
Use platform the other.
Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, welcome to Washington Post Live. I'm Laura Riley, a reporter covering the business of food at the Post. I'm now joined by Alex Chequim, co-founder and CEO of DigiFarm's Smart Agriculture. Alex, welcome to Washington Post Live.
Hi, Laura. It's my pleasure.
Great. Well, so I think that you yourself come from a farming family, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what you farmed and where and how that led you to where you are now.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Yeah, my great-grandpa immigrated from the north of Italy to the south of Brazil. And since then, they've been farming. So they started, of course, with grapes, and they moved to cattle, so livestock, and also then to row crops. So my life was in this, this intersection where I, coming from a farmer's family, very connected to agriculture, but also as an entrepreneur. So I had 9 companies before DigiFarms, and also working with technology. I started to work with technology when I was 9 years old, and that's the point of intersection that I've been living this 44 years now.
So what led you to agriculture as kind of one of your newest ventures, and what problems are you trying to solve for?
Awesome. So all my previous companies were related to agriculture, and DigiFarms is exactly in this moment this huge problem. And we just heard from the other interviews the challenge that we have to increase yield and increase food production. So if we consider what we are now, getting from yield, we are getting 1/3 of the total potential yield. And so it's something strange if you can go to 3 times what you are getting and you are just getting that 1/3. And if you need to use in a more, smart way those resources. So we have at the same time the demand to increase yield, to increase food production, while we need to save and to use wisely the resources. So DigiFarms is helping exactly on that. So we need to avoid the recipe. We need to understand that, especially for the small and medium farmers, they need to understand what is the best combination of products, practices, so doses of products and everything that they need to use for the very reality of each plot. So DigiFarms is increasing the yield by 10 to 50% because it's a very easy to use platform, but it's very powerful of what we are considering behind of all of those algorithms. So we have 52 parameters right now. We have more than 20 years of field data. We are running field trials, greenhouse trials in South America and here in the West as well. So it's a lot of combination of data. And it's the way that the farmers can understand since the beginning of the planning moment that they are understanding what the best genetics they need to use, when they will sow or plant, all the combination of products, doses, tank mix, and everything. So it's the first wave. It's very committed. We are very committed to help them to increase yield, but we need to understand that we are not focusing in this first wave. We are in a long-term, journey. So the first point is help them to increase the yield and produce more food in a more sustainable way and with more quality. But then we are now moving to the moment that we will be able to help the farmers to do it in a regenerative agriculture way. So it's a moment that the farmers, they are struggling to improve their decisions, to make better decisions and increase the yield and food production, but everybody's talking about sustainability and regenerative agriculture. So DigiFarms is now starting the second wave. So the farmers will be able to understand what they need to do if they want to just increase the yield, but if they need at the same time to produce more, but following the best practice of regenerative agriculture as well.
So I am guessing that the people watching this right now, maybe 1% of them have something to do with agriculture, maybe a little higher just given the topic, but just on average in the US, it's between 1 and 2% of people have something to do with agriculture. So I want to ask some kind of basic questions. So I have read that in developed countries, we're seeing that diminished yield or flattened yield in terms of we've had decades and decades of growth in the U.S. and in other big ag exporter countries, but that we've also seen that diminished yield in smallholder farmers or developing countries. Can you just in a very non-techie way describe what are the challenges that are driving that diminishment of yield?
So we need to understand in a very simple language. We need to understand that the scenario it's very complex and it's becoming more complex every year. So we have more products available, new disease happening, at the same time we have new genetics, new biological products, chemical products, and everything. So the scenario it's very very complex and it's becoming more complex every year. And because of that, the farmers and agronomists they are making mistakes in the decision making. Those mistakes are generating damages, so metabolic, physiological damages, and those damages are generating losses. So we are now in a flat moment. In some cases, we need to understand that we did a lot in biotechnology and other evolutions, but now is the moment that we need to use this new technology, there is information technology, to understand when, how much we need to use all the available resources. And so the point is understanding what you need to do. You be able to avoid those mistakes, and avoiding those mistakes, you will reduce the damages and the losses. And this is directly how we are increasing the yield, and how we'll be able to increase the yield, doing all the things at the right time and at the right quantity and at the right decision.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So DigiFarms, it's a subscription service. Would you call it precision ag, or is that an appropriate term for what you're doing, or is there another kind of term that you use to describe the service you're providing?
Yeah, it's a subscription software, so you pay a license per year regarding the size of your farm. So this is very important to mention that we did that way because it's a way that we can make it more democratic. So everybody, all small, medium, and large farmers are able to use DigiFarms because we are providing agnostic data, agnostic suggestions and recommendations. So even the small farmers, we have in Brazil more than 1,200 of farmers using DigiFarms, not only in Brazil, but also in Paraguay. And now we started the operation here in the West. And it's a very, very simple to use platform, but it's at the same time very powerful, how I mentioned. And it's a payment per year, per acre. So it's from $3 to 50 cents. So if you are very small, you start paying $3 per year per acre, and you go up to 50 cents per acre per year. And it's accessible by a web browser or by app, so iOS or Android. And so it's a platform very affordable. And again, you have the power as a farmer and as agronomist to make the best decision, the better decision every day. There's a lot of resources, a lot of new technologies, that's new things happening. But we understand that this is the digital agriculture. We had the precision ag, and now precision ag, it's also more digital. But this technologies like DigiFarms, we can call it digital farm or digital ag.
Great. So is it the kind of thing where you're collecting data and having it anonymized so that you can then kind of year over year have greater kind of regional understanding of, what different inputs do, or what, a La Nina or El Nino year might mean for a particular region? And then would that data be something that then is available on a platform like Grow Intelligence or one of the bigger kind of aggregators of agricultural data?
Great question, Laura. Yes, the way that we develop DigiFarms, there are a lot of other solutions that we are connecting. So we are now connected to a sort of other, like several other platforms, regular platforms, precision ag platforms. But the way that we develop DigiFarms, we use different approaches, okay? So there are some solutions that are just focusing in AI. So have a lot of data, so gather a lot of data, and from that amount of data, they create models, and those models are, part of the solution. So we use a completely different approach. It's very important to mention my business partner and the other co-founder of DigiFarms, Ricardo Ballardin, that has more than 35 years of, experience in field trials, also in greenhouse trials. He has a PhD in Michigan State University. So we've been developing DigiFarms since 2015, and we used at that time more than 12 years of field data. But we use different approaches. We use heuristic modeling processes, different heuristic modeling, logistic, logarithmic, so different modeling processes. and we decompound all the parameters that are responsible to build up yield. And in real time, this is being recreated for the very reality of each plot, each field of our clients. So it's the way that the system, it's very smart, because it's the way that you can understand what is the best for you, not all as a farmer. Of course, sometimes you are not able to buy the best genetic or product, and DigiFarms understands it and can help you in the same level that a huge and large farmer. So DigiFarms works in everywhere, and it's very powerful because we use different approaches. And also the way that we are doing this, it's combining other sources of data. So we are now connected to a lot of weather sources of data, even low altitude satellites, other microwave, radio frequency sources of weather, satellite images, and the other platforms that we are connected: Climate Field View, SAP, John Deere, Trimble, Ag Leader. So a lot of other platforms. So the point is, there's a lot of data. Of course, the data it's something that we are very responsible. So each account has its own data, and it's not shared. So the farmers are on. They have the ability to delete. They can delete their data if they want. But the point is, we are using a lot of field trials and greenhouse trials. So we are getting. I've mentioned we use now 52 parameters. There are a lot of, for example, curve of doses, interaction between different genetics with different kind of products, biological, chemicals, the different combinations of them, different doses. So all those parameters we are getting from field trials and greenhouse trials. It's the only way that we can get those data without any kind of bias, like getting directly from companies. So that's why we are running a lot of field trials in Brazil, in more than 170 different places, also in Paraguay. And here in the West, we are partnered with universities. So University of Purdue, University of Illinois in Champaign, and other universities and entities that are very committed to this, this moment that we are, to increase food production, to increase yield, and at the same time doing it in a more sustainable way. And we need to understand that the food must be increased, but it must be accessible. There's no way to produce more if it costs more, and people that need to eat won't be able to afford, won't be able to buy that food. So we are in the same, in the same moment at this moment in this, challenge to increase yield in a more sustainable way, but at the same time it must be affordable and accessible.
So I think I've read that you're working with 20 commodity row crops. Are there applications for DigiFarms for specialty crops, the foods that we eat? And you said that you're doing greenhouse trials, but would this have applications for indoor vertical or for some of the other kind of new urban ag options that we're seeing kind of spring up semi-successfully all over the place?
Yeah. So Laura, we are a startup. So we started in 2015 to develop all the solution. We launched DigiFarms only in 2020. So we are a early stage startup. So we have 22 mapped crops, but we are going step by step, crop by crop. So we started from the row crops. Now we have soybean, wheat, and other winter cereals. We are launching now corn, and then we will be moving to the other crops. The point is, that's why at this moment we are raising raising money for this to speed up this roadmap and to launch the new crops and also new features that we've been developing. So the point is, because we are deep tech and we use a lot of data, it's not so easy to expand to all those crops at the same time. So we thought we started from the row crops, but now we are expanding. Of course, specialty crops are very important. They are, more. There's a little bit more challenge related because it's different, a lot of different species and different varieties. But we've been working in some data and in some models, and as soon as we will be ready, we'll be launching the solution for this those kind of crops as well. Of course, the vertical or indoor agriculture will be covered by our solution. The idea for the first point is we are not focusing only in row crops. We started from row crops because it's the way that we can scale up and we can create more impact in a short term. But we are very committed to provide value for the humanity and all the society from the short, medium, and up to the long term as well.
Alex, this has been such a treat. It's all stuff I'm super fascinated by, and I think our audience is as well. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. So thank you for joining us on Washington Post Live. And thank you all for joining us. To check out what interviews we have coming up, please head to WashingtonPostLive.com to register and to find more information